Oh my god, it's video games. We are back again to talk about video games, and today we have a small but varied stack of games to go through, so hopefully this shouldn't be too long. In an effort to try to not make this super long, let's just get straight into it. First up, we have a collection here, the Cho Anaki Collection for the Switch. Now, the Cho Anaki games are infamous for being these super crazy, over-the-top Japanese shoot-'em-ups. On the channel, I have covered the Cho Anaki fighting game, which is Cho Anaki Bakuretsu Rantohen, equally as crazy. However, this collection right here features the first two games in the series, both, I believe, for the PC Engine. And the first game, they're fairly standard shoot-'em-ups, except for the craziness and zaniness that kind of backdrops the entire game. But other than that, fairly standard shoot-'em-ups. The original Cho Anaki is fun. I do prefer the sequel on here, Cho Anaki I, or I Cho Anaki, which I think is Super Big Brother. But yeah, if you've never played any of the Cho Anaki games, this is a great way to get two of them, as both of these games in this collection are very expensive on the original PC Engine, so this is a great way to pick these two games up. And if you've seen my episode on Cho Anaki Bakuretsu Rantohen, that game is also getting a standalone re-release here on the Switch. It might already be out by the time this video goes up. I don't remember what they said the release date was going to be, but that is coming out. Anyways, that's going to do it for the Cho Anaki Collection on the Switch. Pick this up if you want some crazy weirdness in your life. Next up, we've got an NES game that I've actually been looking for quite a while, and the last time I saw it in person, I decided not to pick it up, and about a week later when I went to go back to grab it, somebody else had already taken it, so this time I wasn't letting it go, and that is Friday the 13th for the NES. Now, I must admit, not the greatest game out there, but I still kind of love it despite its flaws, and once you kind of know what you're doing in this game, it gets a little bit better. You know, you play as one of these 6 camp counselors and you go around and try to save, the children from Jason at the camp. Of course, this game has the infamously really bad map that's pretty hard to follow. But once you kind of get used to that and you battle Jason more, you get weapons that help you battle Jason faster. So it's not like the worst game out there, but it is definitely far from the best. I will admit I've always really loved the cabin music. That music has always been really, really creepy, and I stand by it as being a pretty awesome song. I picked this up for $20, which is a little much, but I went down to this thing called the Retro Vibes Market in Richmond, Virginia. It was being hosted by the RVA Retro Gamers group, which I'm a part of, and I decided to go down there and check it out, and this was one of the games I saw that I was like, yeah, that needs to come home with me. This episode could probably just be called Oops, All Bad Games, because the handful of games I've got left are definitely not the greatest, but I kind of loved this game no matter what, and that is Turok Rage Wars for the N64. This is a multiplayer deathmatch game for the N64. This has no traditional Turok story mode in it. Nothing like that. It's just a multiplayer game. You can play by yourself with bots. And it is far from the greatest shooter, but I kind of don't really care. I love this game, even though it's kind of bad. Because anytime, I've put this thing on, I've always had, a tremendous amount of fun with it for how simple it is. You get a good 30 to 40 minutes of, fun out of this game, because the shooting's pretty decent. The graphics are okay. There's a decent variety of guns. There's a ton of stages to choose from, so stage variety is definitely a plus on this one, and there's a decent amount of characters to unlock. So overall, far from the worst game on the N64, but I will say the controls in this game are pretty bad. This is definitely before the normal first-person shooter controls were established, let alone on an N64 controller, which is a weird amalgamation of alien technology that nobody really understands, but it kind of works. So this game actually highly benefits from playing it in an emulator where you can set up the controls however you would like them. But hey, if you've got some gaming buddies that get together on a somewhat regular basis, this is kind of a fun game to pull out from time to time and get a bit of enjoyment out of. I certainly do. And it's definitely a bad game I love. It'll probably show up in a future episode. Speaking of first-person shooters, here we've got a game that I did not expect to pick up. I never really expected to pick this game up at all. But when I saw it, and especially for this price, I kind of knew it had to come home with me. And that is Alien vs. Predator for the Atari Jaguar. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call this a bad game, more so an overambitious one, as I really respect what it tries to do. So this game gives you the choice of playing as the alien, the predator, or the marine, straight off the bat. And, the gameplay varies just enough between the three campaigns to kind of keep things fresh. As the predator, you have your predator abilities, and you kind of cloak yourself, and you have to uncloak yourself to kill with respect, so that you kind of earn more points and upgrade yourself. For the alien, it's for survival, you have to cocoon enemies, and the cocoons act as extra lives when your alien falls, so you can kind of keep the game going. And then the marine is your pretty typical first-person shooter campaign, and it's probably the funnest of the three because it's the only one where you have a ranged weapon. And I will admit, if you like Doom and Wolfenstein, this kind of fits into that mold. However, again, it really tries to do some ambitious things for the time, as it's more of a Metroidvania style game where you're kind of having to, search around this gigantic open map and get key cards to gain access to new places and unlock new doors to get new weapons and all that such. So it really does try to do some very interesting things for the time. And this kind of set the standard for the following Alien vs. Predator games that would come after it that greatly improved on the formula. Because this is, again, not the greatest game. It definitely has its problems. It's extremely confusing. It's a huge maze, and it really doesn't get much better, even with a map. There's a lot of backtracking. It has its fair share of problems. There's a lot of enemies that'll kill you very quickly in the Alien and Predator campaign. In the Marine campaign, the biggest issue is anytime you kill an alien, it leaves behind a pool of acid blood that is there forever. So if you shoot something in the middle of a doorway and you have to reuse that doorway time and time again, every time you cross that pool of acid, you're taking damage. So, like I said, far from the best game, but I respect the ever-living hell out of this game for what it tried to do at the time. And I just had to pick this up when I found it. This was from Dawnstar Video Games down in Richmond, Virginia. Awesome little shop. And I got it for $55, which, looking at eBay, is pretty much on par with eBay prices, which is pretty good, as I feel like a couple of months ago, or maybe a year ago when I was looking into this game, it was commanding a much higher price tag. So yes, I'm glad to have Alien vs. Predator for the Atari Jaguar. Alright, that's going to do it for this episode of Video Game Pickups. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this episode, consider checking out these other videos right here, or even subscribing. Also, if you'd like to throw me a couple of bucks, you can support the show on Patreon.